My fusion system, fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapter 211, Walk right into a trap. Moriarty stared at the obsidian gold dagger nearby and noticed that people on both sides of the road walked past him, one after the other. No one even looked at the dagger on the ground. It was unclear if they did not notice it or were too dismissive to see it. Gulp. Gulp. That was the sound from his throat. Moriarty's appetite drove him to go for the obsidian gold dagger. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. The heaven-devouring Rat King had a unique talent: any food it consumed would become part of it. He let out a satisfied burp after he ate the weapon. That weapon has helped my damaged soul heal quite a bit. I will be able to recover or even get stronger if I eat another 100 comparable weapons. Moriarty's platinum-colored eyes rolled in their sockets. He was not only thinking about repairing his shattered soul. He believed that if he lived in Monty Town for a few years, he could turn the heaven-devouring Rat King's body into the diamond tier. Monty Town was considerably wealthier than before, which made his desire swell. Moriarty continued to hide and only rushed forward after looking around and locating the location of Monty Town's City Hall. He was curious as to why Monty Town had become so prosperous. At the same time, at the City Hall's gate, young masters Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter, "Are you leaving already?" Gerant, the mayor, was dressed to the nines. He glanced at the three men in front of him with trepidation. Gerant's face was full of oil, and both of his cheeks had puffed up quite a bit after he had not seen them for 10 days. He had obviously gained a lot of weight. "Mayor Gerant, we have been bothering you in Monty Town for a long time. Furthermore, we have sold all of the supplies we brought from Black Moon Castle. We must return and replenish them. What do you think?" Zeke wore a mature grin on his face. Many officials in Monty Town were respectful of him after conducting business with him for so many days. He was starting to look more like an influential businessman. "You are right, young Master Zeke. Then I won't stop you. I'll send my guards to escort you out of the city." Gerant nodded. He did not stop him. The earth-shattering developments in Monty Town could not have happened without Black Moon Castle, and he had tasted quite a bit of the sweetness. If Zeke wanted to leave, he did not dare to stand in his way. He would, on the contrary, deploy guards to protect him. He was terrified that something might happen to the Black Moon Castle's young masters, that might cause Black Moon Castle to stop cooperating with them. At that time, Black Moon Castle produced 90% of the items in circulation in Monty Town. They had effectively monopolized the entire town's business. The residents could not stop praising Black Moon Castle because the things were of excellent quality and inexpensive. They were happy with Black Moon Castle's contribution of clearing out magical beasts during the winter. Gerant did not want to do anything to stop that, nor could he do anything. Monty Town was 10 times stronger than before, and that was part of his accomplishments too. He did not care who ruled Monty Town as long as it could grow stronger. "Mayor Gerant, thank you for your good intentions. The rock golems can protect us. There will be no risk on the road. You may send us off here, Mayor. That's all for now, we will talk again in the future." Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter turned around and left the city hall after they nodded at Gerant. There were more than 10 manor owners behind them. They all waved to the officials, who sent them off happily. In that world, manor owners were individuals with a low status. They were hardly better than servants and could not be compared to the city hall's noble officers. However, they had a higher standing than others because they were the manor owners from Black Moon Castle. They made the best decision in their lives when they allied with Black Moon Castle. Each manor owner's face was brimming with confidence as they entertained their own thoughts. Gerald returned to the city hall after watching the manor owners and the 3 young masters of Black Moon Castle leave. He went directly to the office on the top floor. His office was light and airy, it had just been renovated. He noticed a large desk the moment he walked into the room. A supper plate sat beside the desk, and on it were 2 crimson phoenix eggs that glowed with bright flames. Gerent rubbed his hands together, eager to get to the desk. He peeled the phoenix eggs with a knife and fork. He swallowed his spit as he saw the golden eggs liquid trickle out. Recently, Black Moon Castle has shipped quite a number of phoenix eggs. There are well over 100 of them. Fortunately, as mayor, I have amassed quite a bit of wealth, so I purchased 10 of them. 5 of them are for the Ptolemy family, 3 for emergencies. As for the other 2, he was ready to taste them. What a beautiful color! Gerent's eyes lit up as he scooped some of the golden egg liquid with a fork. Even though it was not cooked, the color and aroma were the most exquisite ingredients in the world. Just as he wanted to put the liquid into his mouth, a black shadow passed in front of him, and he realized his hand was empty, and the fork had vanished. A palm-sized black rat stood on the desk in front of him. The crown emblem on its brow shone brightly, and it licked the liquid on the fork. D***MN rat! How dare you steal my phoenix egg? Gerent's rage was palpable. He had paid 2,000 gold coins for the 2 phoenix eggs. He did not want to share them even with his most trusted aides, so how could he let a common rat steal them? In that regard, his office was on the top floor. Typically, a maid would clean it. Thus there should not be any rats. Perhaps the maid did not clean it well. He cursed the maid inwardly. Then, he raised his palm, preparing to smack the rodent on the table. That rat had just swallowed the egg liquid of the phoenix egg, so it might not have digested it yet. If he killed it and made it into soup, he might be able to stop the damage. After all, he was a peak bronze tier warrior. With his thick combat aura in his palm, it would be easy to kill a rat. What startled him was that an invisible force froze his body before his hand fell on the rat. He laid on the table, and when the rat raised its head, an unmistakable platinum tier aura radiated out from it. It made Gerent feel as if that was not a rat but a monster that could devour the world. You want to kill me? The mouse moved its mouth, it caused Gerent to widen his eyes. Did that rat speak in human language? Those 2 phoenix eggs are quite tasty. I can't kill you right now for the sake of those 2 eggs. The rat placed the 2 phoenix eggs, along with their shells, into its mouth. But you must tell me why Monty Town has become like this. Gerent's body trembled, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He did not care why the rat in front of him was so strong, he said hurriedly, well, some time ago. He described how Monty Town had become infested with rats and how Black Moon Castle had sent personnel to rescue them, and they had brought a significant number of supplies with them. He did not hide anything. It is a shame the pen of truth was lost in the fight. Otherwise, I would know if this person is telling the truth. He would not dare to lie to me. Moriarty was the rat. After a moment of thought, he said, you mean, Black Moon Castle has addressed the winter dilemma and established a connection with Monty Town, and they frequently conduct business here. How are the Black Moon Castle residents doing right now? Moriarty was convinced that the previous youth was from Black Moon Castle. He wanted Watson's body. If he could find the Black Moon Castle residents, he could sneak into the castle and accomplish his purpose. He had intended to occupy Gerent's body when Gerent finished speaking, but he suddenly had a better plan. Gerent said, the young masters from Black Moon Castle have just left. Which way? Take me there now and stop them. As the mayor of Monty Town, it's inappropriate for me to leave so rashly. Moreover, I have no reason to stop them. Just say that you want to visit Black Moon Castle and establish a long-term cooperative relationship. You can find any excuse you want. Moriarty sounded impatient. I just parted with the young masters, and now I'm going over. Bang! Moriarty reached out a claw and swung it at the wall when he saw Gerent's hesitation. The wall and the window above it broke with a muted sound. The wind blew into the big hole that stretched for nearly 10 meters. Gerent swallowed his saliva and stood there dazed as he stared at the horrible scene in front of him. He only snapped back to his senses when the maid outside asked, Mayor Gerent, what's happening inside? I'm fine. Nothing happened. Don't come in. Gerant took a step back and leaned against the office door. He said, Rat, sir, I can get over there right now. I will pack my belongings as soon as possible and dispatch someone to prepare the carriage. Is that all right? Moriarty nodded to indicate that it was okay. Watson would never have guessed that he would dare to sneak into Black Moon Castle. Even if he was no match for Watson, he could still threaten him with his family members. He could even take over the bodies of Watson's family members. He could pretend to be his brothers and sisters, and he put up a fantastic show of them murdering each other. Moriarty's eyes turned harsh when he thought about that scene. Gerant had also calculated the situation. Even though he had no idea what kind of feud a rat could speak the human language would have with Black Moon Castle, he assumed the rat was a fish that had escaped the net when Black Moon Castle killed all the other magical beasts. A little rat was nothing in comparison to the might of Black Moon Castle. Black Moon Castle could fuse magical beasts, so the rat in front of him would likely cause no harm to Black Moon Castle. It would most probably be fused into a pet, it was only a matter of time until it would walk into that trap. Gerant's face was filled with sympathy as he stared at Moriarty for a brief moment. Chapter 212, The Strongest Force at the Border. Black Moon Town. Not only had Monty Town grown significantly in the last 20 days, but Black Moon Castle, which was a material exporter, had also made a lot of money. People clothed in thick fur pushed carts outside the town's lofty walls, transporting metals, plants, ores, and other items to Black Moon Castle. The items produced included weapons, armor, and fused magical monsters. There were at least 100,000 personnel in charge of moving the goods. Those people were refugees who had escaped there during the winter. They had fallen in love with that location after only a few days and had become a part of it of their own accord. Over 100,000 individuals stayed in Black Moon, bringing the town to life. Watson's benevolent return appeared at that precise moment. He had lacked manpower when it came to forming a faction. Even if Watson had the fusion system, he could not do it all on his own. He would pass out from tiredness if he did. Fortunately, Black Moon Town was not short of people at the time. The greater the number of people, the more efficient it would be. The two sides of the road going into Black Moon Town were lined with stores. Those shops were yet to open, and they were all heaped high with fused raw materials. There was not a single item that was less than gold tier. The beasts that guarded such shops were tens of meters tall. They were all gold tier beasts, and the shops were formed of giant rock golems. Monty Town, on the other hand, only obtained a large number of silver tier equipment. Gold tier equipment was considered a treasure, although it was used at Black Moon Castle. Anything less than gold tier was plain garbage. Everyone felt the same way, from the manor owners of Black Moon Castle to the refugees who had just arrived. The raw materials in that batch are gold tier porcelain acquired from Monty Town. To avoid a collision, hold and position it lightly. That is the gold tier goatskin parchment that Margaret purchased for me. What else can be done to keep fire, lightning, and vibration at bay? I don't remember. Vincent patted his head as he commanded his subordinates. Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter had taken a trip to Monty Town, and Watson had gone to the area around the Dragonspine Snow Mountain. Only he, Nindy, Margaret, and Scarlet had remained at home. Nindy was busy training the mages while Scarlet rode towering magical beasts every day in Black Moon. Margaret hid in her room for an unexplained cause, and she practiced archery too. Margaret was always outside when Watson was home. Vincent had no idea how Watson had done it. Margaret had refused to leave her room no matter what he said. Margaret would occasionally make bizarre requests to him, such as purchasing waterproof and fireproof paper. She explained that she frequently destroyed the manuscript accidentally, and she only had indestructible goatskin paper. That would not have occurred. Vincent was puzzled. How could one write on waterproof paper? I don't know when Watson will return. Life has gotten boring when Watson is not here. Vincent could not stop sighing. As one of the Black Moon Castle's young masters, he did not need to command his subordinates to move the goods personally, but he was too bored. Every day, he witnessed the increase of resources and gold coins in Black Moon Castle. They had to fill one storehouse after the other. After he became wealthy, he felt that the so-called money was merely a number to him. His existence was no longer as intriguing as it once had been. He used to have at least one aim: to earn a living. At that moment, even if he spent money like dirt every single day, it was not as fast as the increase of wealth in Black Moon Castle. The life of the rich was extremely dull and monotonous. A continuous stretch of dark shadows loomed in the distance of Black Moon Town just as he was sighing. That swath of shades moved quickly, virtually passing in front of Black Moon Town in a second, and the earth trembled with it. When Vincent got closer, he noticed the black shadows were actually big groups of black rats. The ground, which had previously been blanketed in snow, was covered in snowflakes. Almost all of the vegetation and pebbles that grew on the ground had been devoured. Some of those rats were monstrous. They were floating in the air with 6 wings on their backs. The remaining rats had plants and hard ores in their mouths. They crushed them with their sharp jaws and smashed their food in a matter of seconds. Some of the rats grew in size, while others split in half. There were at least 100,000 of those rats. The number of those rats had climbed by 1/10 during the race. Vincent's attitude changed when he saw the rats racing toward Black Moon Castle. He remembered Watson had already gotten rid of the magical beasts around the Misty Forest and the Dragonspine Snow Mountain. Why were there so many magical beasts left? A bright light appeared in the sky just as he was about to urge Black Moon Castle residents to be on high alert and ready to confront those magical beasts. A massive magical array arose, and some 10 familiar figures emerged from it. Watson was the leader. Watson is back. Vincent's eyes glowed. Everyone, even the refugees in charge of transporting the goods and the guards in Black Moon Castle, raised their heads to look at the sky with joy. Young Master Watson is finally back. Those rats are nothing to young Master Watson. They continued with their work. They demonstrated a high level of professionalism. No one was concerned about the gold-biter rats that were about to arrive. Roar! The roar of a magical beast followed as the Golden Flash and Emperor Cluck Tyrant took flight. The Platinum Dragon King and the Hybrid Phoenix's cries crisscrossed and resounded over the sky. This is the Black Moon Castle. Sylvan was moved as he looked down at the enormous walls that stretched for dozens of kilometers, burning with lava flames, and the tall buildings that rose and collapsed within the walls. That was his first visit there. He had heard about Black Moon Castle's strength, but he had not cared about that. The scene in front of him, on the other hand, had left him in a state of astonishment. Every house below was built from the bodies of giant rock golems. A team of over 100,000 workers was hauling supplies back and forth outside the dwellings built of those rock golems. When Sylvan looked closer, he discovered that the items those folks were transporting were gold tier items, or at the very least silver tier. Fairy Castle did not even have as many people, and even their supplies were insufficient. Sylvan was taken aback when he noticed that the sunlight above his head was obstructed, forming a cloud. That caused him to elevate his head subconsciously. He saw a castle the size of a hill floated above his head. The castle was as incisive as a sword. Its surrounding rock base was loaded with thick and lengthy gun barrels. It was dark and menacing. It is a floating city in the sky. How did he manage to achieve it? Sylvan was utterly dumbfounded. He could accept Black Moon Castle's distinctive giant rock golem dwellings and a large number of resources. He had the ability to call giant rock golems as well, and if he worked hard enough, he could replace all of the houses in Fairy Castle with them. He could direct the collection of valuable resources from all over the border, but it was the first time he saw a building floating in the sky. He had no idea how it worked. Nightingale and the other shadow guards, as well as Lilith and Antonio, appeared beside him. They were not startled because they had seen the new Black Moon Castle, but Lilith took a closer look. She could not help but praise it. The elemental giants are an extremely powerful race. Even 10,000 years ago, using giant rock golems to erect buildings was considered a luxury. And this city floats in the air. I think only the angel species have achieved the art of building a city in the sky. It is as expected of my honorable master this should be the most powerful building in the world. When Sylvan heard that, the corner of his mouth twitched. He wanted to respond, but he did not know what to say. He had to concede that, while he did not know how that had happened, the growth of Black Moon Castle had progressed to the point that he could not keep up. He was not sure if Black Moon Castle was the world's strongest building. He could only agree that, on the surface, Black Moon Castle had far surpassed the Fairy Castle. It was not an exaggeration to say it was the most powerful force on the border. Chapter 213, The Distribution of Platinum Tier Items. Watson meekly waved his hand in response to Lilith's appreciation. Black Moon Castle's appearance is still far from what I had expected. I want Black Moon Castle to be as indestructible as a mountain. No one would be able to withstand our tremendous strike if we were to attack. Watson's words were firm and decisive. The pen of truth flew out of his body as soon as he finished speaking. Sylvan and the others near him took a quick step back and covered their arms, fearful of being drained dry by the pen. The pen of truth was unconcerned about them at the moment. Instead, it curved its shaft toward Watson and wrote a line of blood-red words in midair. Great Master, according to my humble judgment, everything you said is valid and can be realized. Do you think I am right? Right, my foot. Both Sylvan and Antonio, who had some understanding of the pen of truth, ridiculed it in their hearts. Even if the pen of truth was treated as the pen of disaster, at least its ability to judge lies was absolute, no one would doubt its judgment. It was no longer the same. Watson's pen of truth was very obedient, it even asked Watson if it were correct. Would the pen of truth amend its words if Watson claimed it was wrong? Let's put that aside. The most pressing issue now is dealing with the gold-biter rats outside Black Moon Town. Watson turned to face the exterior of Black Moon Town. The gold-biter rats had already escaped from Black Moon Town and began devouring the walls. Moriarty had destroyed the Dragonspine Snow Mountain half a day before. After consulting with Nightingale and the others, they agreed to let him handle the fused gold-biter rats and use them for hunting the wild gold-biter rats that had escaped from the Dragonspine Snow Mountain. They sent the gold-biter rats toward Black Moon Castle. They had driven the more than 100,000 gold-biter rats toward Black Moon Castle. Watson was terrified of the gold-biter rats after learning that they could spawn more than 100,000 rodents in just a few hours. Without his assistance, the gold-biter rats would have expanded indefinitely, eventually covering the entire border and turning it into a sea of rats. Great Master, this place has many thoughtful servants. I will help you choose a few people who can be of use to you. The men named Antonio and Sylvan over there and the Hell Baron group leader, Lilith. The three of them can help you. Do you think I'm right? The pen of truth looked like it was asking for a reward as it wrote next to Watson in a very low position. Antonio, Sylvan, and Lilith were all furious when they saw the writing. Sylvan was the border count. He wanted to solve the gold-biter rat problem for the safety of the border. Antonio, as Watson's master, would also help them. As for Lilith, as Watson's subordinate, she was even more obliged to do that. However, it was up to them to take the initiative to make a move. If the pen of truth had to make the arrangements for them, then it was another matter. They felt as if the pen was acting like their superior to arrange the tasks for them. Did the pen expect them to give it some benefits? Why would they do that? There's no need to go through so much trouble. I have a better idea. Watson swept his palm toward the ground after rejecting the pen of truth's idea. He said, activate all Black Moon Town's rock and lava golems. Black Moon Castle has entered level 1 combat mode. Boom! The giant lava golems on the ground, which served as the walls of Black Moon Town, stood up when he said that there were hundreds of them. Combined with the giant rock golems that had served as houses, there were thousands of those giant golems. Each giant golem towered over 100 meters in height. Thousands of 100-meter-tall giants stood like mountains. That was a frightening scene. The rock golems exuded a savage vibe as if they had traveled back in time 10,000 years. After the giant rock golem stood up, the floating black moon castle also stopped moving. The black cannon holes on the rock base flickered with light, they were ready to fire. It was an earth-shattering meteorite cannon. That was an enormous cannon barrel that extended from the edge of the city into the sky. It launched meteorite-like shells toward the enemy, resulting in an attack comparable to a platinum-tier elite. However, when the attack was launched, the metropolis in the sky could not move. The gold-biter rats that were outside of Black Moon Town were initially waiting to consume it. They soon noticed, however, that the wall in front of them had suddenly risen. There was a saying, more ants can kill an elephant. However, what if there were as many elephants as ants? Watson pointed his finger at the gold-biter rats and dropped it. Boom, boom. Thousands of platinum-tier rock golems stepped forward at the same time. The earth trembled, and the mountains, particularly the lava golems, rocked. Not only would one stride make a large crater in the ground, but hot lava would also fall from their bodies. Some of the gold-biter rats that were resting on top of them had melted instantly. The bronze-tier gold-biter rats no longer dared to approach the lava golems and began to spread toward the rock golems instead. The gold-biter rats had not even approached the rock golems when they were crushed to death on the ground. A layer of crimson remains appeared on the ground soon after. Only some silver-tier and gold-tier gold-biter rats managed to fly into the sky, passing between the two types of golems. They headed toward Black Moon Castle. There were at least 20,000 gold-biter rats. They were like locusts. They would dive down from a low altitude and devour the corpses of their gold-biter rat buddies on the ground. Their aura grew stronger, and they split into new bodies, resulting in an increase in the number of gold-biter rats. Their goal was obvious. It was the 100,000 people that remained in Black Moon Town. After the giant rock golems had left, Black Moon Town became an empty shell. The refugees in Black Moon Castle, except for those in it, glanced up at the sky. They looked a little scared. The locusts in the sky were already terrifying, let alone the gold-biter rats with ferocious faces, snow-white fangs, and scarlet eyes. Why are those monsters devouring their own species? It's too terrifying. But it doesn't matter. Young Master Watson will protect us. Even though the refugees were afraid, none of them moved. The Black Moon Castle in the sky lit up as though in response to their expectations. A massive meteor engulfed in flames was fired from the cannon. It ripped a gaping hole in the densely packed gold-biter rats in the sky. Then, it landed on the ground, forming a deep trench surrounded by green smoke. Then the second, third, and fourth meteors came forth. More than 100 meteors streaked past, and the number of gold-biter rats in the sky instantly decreased by more than half. A hint of fear appeared in the eyes of the remaining rats. They were a species that did not fear death and only knew how to devour, but they were afraid because it was a battle where they could not fight back. The gold-biter rats wanted to leave, but it was too late. The lava and rock golems bent down one after another and sprang into the air. They opened their massive hands and swatted the silver-tier gold-biter rats in the sky like they were mosquitoes. A wave of trampling, a wave of bombardment, and the last wave of slapping in just a few minutes, all the gold-biter rats had vanished. There was not a single one remaining. The rock and lava golems returned to their regular positions after the magical beasts were defeated. The Black Moon Castle in the sky had also begun to operate again. There were over 100,000 magical beasts, and there were plenty of silver-tier and gold-tier beasts among them. They were defenseless in front of Black Moon Castle. Nobody from the castle needed to make a single move. The castle possessed strong defensive capability. Such a powerful imprint had been etched in everyone's heart. The refugees were delighted, and their faces beamed with pride. They no longer have to worry about their lives because they can live in such an environment. Watson directed the giant rock golems to return to their original locations from the skies. They panted slightly, and sweat poured from their brows. He would not have been able to manage so many rock golems at the same time if he had not advanced to platinum tier. Despite that, more than half of the magical elements in his body had been depleted. At that moment, a team of knights in black armor rose into the air and came before him. The leaders were List and Alan. "Greetings, young Master Watson," List and Alan said simultaneously. A group of maidservants flew out of Black Moon Castle after the Black Moon Knights. Capella and Wendy were in the lead, followed by the former high-ranking members of the Demonis bandit gang. They moved respectfully to the other side of Watson. "On behalf of the maidservants, welcome home, young Master Watson," Capella said. Watson's siblings and parents in Black Moon Castle stretched their heads out and stared in Watson's direction. Every time Watson returned home, he would make a significant move. He had slaughtered more than 100,000 magical beasts that day, and that was only a small action. Watson grinned in satisfaction when he saw the Black Moon Knights and maidservants unable to hide their enthusiasm behind grave looks. "You have all worked hard to stay in Black Moon Town these few days. I collected various items from this trip, including ancient ruins, precious ores, medicinal herbs, and magical beast hoards. They are on their way here. I'll allow you to pick any one of those treasures. In addition, I have prepared a platinum tier item for each of you." "A platinum tier item?" Everyone held their breath as they heard that. Watson said it was one for each of them. Did he bring all of the platinum tier treasures from all over the world? They thought that Watson's actions in killing the gold-biter rats had not been too significant. It seemed like he had reserved the powerful ones for later. Chapter 214, Diamond Star Dragon and Frost Phoenix. A long line of magical beasts had returned outside Black Moon Town, carrying many valuable plants and ores on their backs. Many of those plants and ores were of the platinum tier. They were the results of Watson's fusion with more than half of the Misty Forest some time ago. Watson had intended to leave the platinum tier ores and herbs which he had fused at the Misty Forest. He had wanted to wait until the supplies in Black Moon Town were depleted before heading out to get them. However, he changed his mind due to the gold-biter rats. The gold-biter rats could eat everything in their path. If they did not carry those goods back to Black Moon Castle, they would be gone in a matter of days. Aside from the boulders and medicinal herbs carried by the magical beasts, the team was surrounded by several giant rock golems. They were in groups of 2 or 3, each with a massive piece of the ancient ruin. Some of the ruins covered thousands of meters, forming a gigantic ball. On top of that, there were several honeycomb-shaped holes. Some of the ruins were inverted triangles, and monstrous roars could be heard from within. There were also other remains that resembled palaces. Buildings might represent an era's aesthetic. Buildings from different times would look entirely different. Most of the ruins that Watson had excavated were buildings that were more than 500 years old. They were not considered ancient. Only a few structures had a history that dated back more than 1,000 years. Watson stood above the floating Black Moon Castle and delivered platinum-tier stuff to the people around him as the magical beasts and giant rock golems were transporting the supplies. "Every Black Moon Knight will have a wish for the World Ring. This ring can grant your wish, and you only have to pay half the amount. Aside from the Black Moon Knights, all maids and official employees in residence will also get a ring." As he talked, Watson passed the rings that dripped with starlight to the Black Moon Knights and maids in front of him. Those rings were created with Antonio's lifespan. His master, who had become young as a result of his prior wish, appeared old again. The Black Moon Knights and maids stared at him. The residents of Black Moon Castle did not recognize Antonio because he had looked young when he arrived. They wondered about that attractive man's identity. Lilith, the female Hell Baron, also confused them. She had a fragile appearance, but she had looked at them and said, "These folks are so feeble. Are they your lowly servants, master?" The Black Moon Knights did not say anything because they could feel the platinum tier aura from Lilith's body, but the maids were a different story. Lilith was attractive and powerful. She was simply the ideal maid candidate, and that gave Capella and Wendy, who were in the lead, a glint in their eyes. Young Master Watson had brought such a powerful woman back with him, they thought their position was threatened. Watson had already distributed the rings to everyone while they were in deep thoughts. He gave Antonio a friendly smile and said, "Thank you for your efforts, Master. You are willing to put your life on the line to make these rings for me. Why are you so courteous with me? It's my duty to do that." Antonio waved his hand. "I will not be courteous then, since it is your wish. Actually, I think everyone who has joined Black Moon Castle should also get a ring. What do you think, Master?" "That should be fine." Antonio nodded. A wish with the wish for the world ring would require him to give up some years from his lifespan. He could wish for 20 rings with every 10,000 years of his life. If Watson were to help him regain those years, the number would be lowered to 10 rings. In other words, 10 rings would not affect him. It would only cause him to suffer the agony of having his lifespan reduced by 10,000 years. There were a few thousand workers in Black Moon Castle. Even though it sounded like it was a lot, it was not too much. He could bear it. When all of the workers have received the rings, then we would do the same with the refugees who had just joined us. We don't have that many yet, but the number might increase in the future. We must prepare those rings in advance. Watson counted on his fingers, but he was interrupted by Antonio before he could continue. "What are you doing, Watson? You want to equip everyone in Black Moon Castle with platinum tier rings? Do you want me to die?" It was one thing to make thousands of wish for the world rings for those people, but there were more than 100,000 people in Black Moon Town. He could only make 10 at a time, which meant that he had to endure the torture of losing tens of thousands of years. He shuddered when he thought about the pain. "I understand how painful that must be for you, Master, but there is no other way for Black Moon Castle to grow stronger. And I won't let you work for free. In return, I'll give you a certain amount of compensation." Watson's thoughtful response tempted Antonio. "What kind of compensation?" he inquired nervously. He would not have taken Watson's statements seriously if it had been in the past. Even if he was not the wealthiest mage in the kingdom, he had amassed a sizable fortune. What could Watson possibly give him? However, he realized Watson could provide him with a lot of things. Watson could create a rare platinum tier item easily, as well as fusing high-quality magical beasts and even servants. If Watson could give him a few hundred platinum tier items, he might let Watson consume his lifespan. "I want to give you this as compensation." Watson floated in the air and pointed at the giant rock golems and magical beasts that were moving relics and large amounts of resources to the outside of the town of Black Moon. They passed by the place where the gold biter rats had been destroyed. They were stepping on pools of blood. However, not a single magical beast or giant rock golem lowered their heads. It was as if they were already used to such a scene. "Watson, are you going to give me those magical beasts or the things on their bodies?" Antonio asked. He was somewhat puzzled. "Neither. I'm going to give you the things after I've fused them." Watson extended his finger and pointed it toward the outskirts of Black Moon Town. "System fusion, activate." Hundreds of thousands of magical beasts outside the town instantly transformed into gigantic sheets of light and flew into the sky as soon as his voice fell. About half of the light wrapped around the Golden Flash's body, forcing it to swell in size and let out a tremendous roar as the Platinum Dragon King. Its body had grown from more than 100 meters to more than 200 meters in a matter of seconds. The scales on its body had also changed from platinum to shimmering diamonds. Its torso was encased in diamond-like armor, and its massive wings spread out to engulf the sky and the sun. The Golden Flash roared, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Initially, there was only a blood-red moon in the sky, but after a short time, stars appeared around it. Starlight fell and landed on the Golden Flash's body, forming a gorgeous nebula that encircled it. "Congratulations, Master, for fusing a large number of magical beasts, successfully allowing the Golden Flash to break through the boundaries of the Platinum Dragon King and become the higher-level Diamond Star Dragon. The Diamond Star Dragon is a Diamond tier magical beast. Attributes: Earth, Fire, Water, Wind, Light, and Darkness. Gold tier spells: Sun Rays, Raging Firestorm, War Stomp, Earth Pulse, Death Curse, Darkness Corrosion, Lethal Poison. Platinum tier spells: 9th tier Blazing Dragon Breath, Absolute Zero. Diamond tier spells: Super Planet Collision, creates 2 stars to collide, producing the Star Destruction's power. Meteor Banishment, creates a meteor that can seal the enemy and send it into outer space for eternal banishment. Additional abilities: Super Magic Immunity, Complete Physical Resistance, Draconic Magic, Zoom, Camouflage, Dragon Might. Star Creation, consumes a large amount of energy to create a new star in the sky. After fusing with hundreds of thousands of high-quality magical beasts, the Golden Flash has advanced to the Diamond tier. It's pretty much what I had expected. As the Golden Flash roared, information appeared in Watson's eyes. At the same time, the other half of the magical beasts morphed into a ray of light that encircled Emperor Cluck's body as it flew into the sky. Its body stretched to more than 100 meters as it roared, and its entire body was engulfed in heavenly white flames. A wave of good fortune was born. Snowflakes fell from the sky and dropped onto its body, but they did not melt. Instead, they flowered into ice crystal blooms. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing the hybrid phoenix into a pure-blooded phoenix. Peak Platinum tier magical beast, Ice Phoenix. Attributes: Fire, Ice. Abilities: possesses the strength of a Platinum tier magical beast. Gold tier spells: Firestorm, Fire Sweep, Dance of the Phoenix, Ice Spear Sweep. Platinum tier spells: Fire of the Red Lotus that purifies everything, Absolute Zero. Additional effects: production, produces 100 pure blood phoenix eggs every day. The first consumption of these eggs will allow one to awaken dual attribute combat aura of ice and fire, obtain the bloodline of the Frost Phoenix, and have a chance of rebirth, resists fatal injuries and resurrects, complete resistance to fire magic, flight, transformation. The Might of the Phoenix has a deterrent effect on bird elemental magical beasts, and Phoenix tears. The tears shed by the Phoenix can heal injuries, and are a rare Platinum tier material. That's right. Emperor Cluck is also upgraded. Watson nodded in gratification. He had planned to transform Emperor Cluck from a hybrid phoenix to a pure-blooded phoenix. Even though he had lost the magical beast that he had painstakingly fused at the Misty Forest, he did not consider it a total loss. After it evolved into a real phoenix, Emperor Cluck could lay 100 eggs daily. It could allow 100 people to awaken their ice and fire dual attribute battle auras. At the same time, consuming the phoenix egg could let a person be reborn. It was equivalent to a god-tier life-saving item. Watson, you said that you would give the fused items to me. Do you intend to give one of those 2 magical beasts to me? Antonio stared at the sky and licked his lips. He felt a little thirsty. It looked like the nebula-covered diamond-tier Golden Flash was even more powerful than Antonio. Even the pure Frost Phoenix's Emperor Cluck was enough to make him keep his eyes on it. Any one of those 2 magical beasts would attract everyone's envy. He breathed heavily when he thought about how he could ride the Frost Phoenix or the Diamond Stardust Dragon as the residents below worshipped him. If Watson were willing to give him one of those 2 magical beasts, he would be willing to spend 100,000 or even 1,000,000 lifetimes, let alone a mere 10,000 years, to help Watson make the wish for the world rings. With his heart full of beautiful fantasies, Antonio was startled to see Watson shake his head as he apologized. Please accept my apologies, Master. Those 2 enchanted monsters are not for you. I haven't fused it yet. It was not the case. While Antonio was filled with regret, he grew increasingly interested in what Watson would fuse next. He had fused a diamond-tier dragon and a pure-blooded phoenix with a mere lift of his palm. He had no idea what Watson would do next. Chapter 215, Fusing the Ruins. More than 100,000 people in Black Moon Town were in a frenzy after Watson fused the Diamond Star Dragon and the pure-blooded Frost Phoenix. Phoenixes and dragons were fabled magical beasts, and the phoenix was not a dragon. Emperor Cluck had been fused into a frost phoenix with a noble ice elemental lineage. Watson hypothesized that it was due to the misty forest's abundance of ice elemental flying magical beasts. As for the Golden Flash, it had become a diamond-tier magical beast. That was the first time that Watson had fused such a beast, and he was a little excited. He heard that there was only one diamond-tier elite in the entire Holy Dragon Kingdom. He felt that Black Moon Castle's strength at that moment was not inferior to the kingdom in terms of peak combat strength. They created a diamond-tier magical beast, and it's a precious Diamond Star Dragon. Sylvan was looking at the gorgeous nebula around the Diamond Star Dragon, as well as the sparkling diamond-scaled body covered by the nebula, not far from Watson. His gaze was filled with envy. He had always wanted a powerful mount, but he did not care about ordinary magical beasts. He could not catch a powerful magical beast. The Diamond Star Dragon in front of him was exactly what he wanted. The Diamond Star Dragon could be considered the strongest in the dragon clans as an elemental fusion dragon. The dragon clans were generally divided into 6 elements: earth, fire, water, wind, light, and darkness. Each dragon clan had its own specialties, and the best of them were known as elemental fusion dragons. For example, the Gale Dragon, formed from the fusion of wind and fire elements, was several times stronger than the Red Dragon, which was only good in fire elements. One could only imagine a Diamond Star Dragon's strength, especially with its fused attributes. Watson extended his palm toward the giant rock golems who were moving the ruins outside of Black Moon Town, just as Sylvan was looking enviously at the awe-inspiring golden flash in the sky. System fusion, activate. The giant rock golems and the ruins on their shoulders changed into streams of light. They clashed, forming a massive shape that stretched for an unknown number of kilometers. The fused ruins' concrete appearance had yet to be revealed. The earth shook as well. The uproar was even louder than the diamond-tier golden flash Watson had just fused. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing 12 ancient ruins and forging a diamond-tier special building, the Land of the Dead. Diamond-tier special building, the Land of the Dead. Effect, alternate space, a space that is fused from ruins. It is between reality and illusion. When summoned, it will descend onto the earth. Usually, it will hide in a spatial crack. Countless dead creatures live in the Land of the Dead, and among them are ancient and powerful souls. The souls of the dead will gain eternal life in it. Summon of the Kings of Death. There are 12 powerful kings in the Land of the Dead, corresponding to the owners of the 12 fused ruins. They are the Red Priests who control war and destruction, the Kings of Nights born on the backs of magical beasts, and the Ghost Ship Captain who once conquered the sea. All the kings have abilities comparable to Platinum-tier champions. Ship of the Dead. The Land of the Dead will occasionally send ships of the dead to patrol, absorbing all the souls of the dead nearby and converting them into their own power. The Death Knell, the strongest attack in the Land of the Dead, which consumes a portion of the souls of the dead and directly grants death to the enemy. The more souls consumed, the more enemies will die. Additional ability, Undead Treasury. Because the Land of the Dead does not have a physical form, the host can summon the Land of the Dead to his side at any time and borrow tools from it. Watson could not help but smile as he looked at the information in front of him and the massive building buried in the gap. The building in front of him virtually engulfed the entire Black Moon Town. The translucent Black River poured across Black Moon Town and crashed and passed through the bodies of the giant rock golems and the residents as if those rivers did not have a physical form. However, the temperature had decreased by a few degrees. It was as if a gigantic black ship materialized out of nowhere, and countless corpses stood aboard the unsteady ship. Mountain peaks towered on both sides of the ship. The summits had collapsed, exposing ancient castles with even more dead people standing on top of them. A skeleton priest wore a red robe and wielded a scepter and a long sword. The skeleton priest's eyes were deeply sunken, and red flames burned in them. His scepter was encrusted with gemstones of 7 distinct colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. It resembled Sven's undead calamity staff, but its aura was brighter, radiating a rainbow glow. Under the skeleton's feet was an inverted triangle building that represented the Tudor dynasty. At that moment, skeleton soldiers as white as jade emerged from the building. The ragged robes over their bodies flailed in the breeze. They turned to stare at Watson in the sky. Their empty eyes were filled with reverence as if they were worshipping a deity. A honeycomb-shaped building was not far from the Red Priest. Watson had discovered the 2,000-year-old relic. It was supposed to be a one-of-a-kind underground civilization formed by a kingdom that had fled war and hid underground. A group of dark-skinned, small, and hunched creatures, the underground people, stood on the structure some 2,000 years ago. The underground people wore a white bone mask that showed only one eye and a black cloak. The leader of the underground people was exceptionally tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms on his back and 4 hands that held a drill-shaped weapon. The weapon shone with a platinum luster. Other than the underground people, there was a slightly smaller boat behind the black ship. A ghost captain with fluttering hair commanded thousands of sailors. He held a trident that could summon a storm. There was a golden chariot behind them. A majestic emperor sat upright on it as he flipped through the golden codex. The undead emitted a powerful aura. They were the 12 kings from the land of the dead, surrounding Watson as if they were devout guards defending their master. The residents of Black Moon Town stared at the apparitions of the dead that materialized beside them. They held their breath and refused to breathe. The land of the dead was like a shadow of Black Moon Town, or more accurately, a picture of the town reflected in a mirror. That mirror, however, was covered in a layer of dread. The undead that wandered through the living bodies brought a touch of mystery and terror to the town. "Watson, is this the gift you prepared for me?" Antonio could not help but smile as he detected the auras of the countless dead. Watson had indicated that he would give him a gift after the fusion. He asked Watson if he would get the Golden Flash and Emperor Cluck, and Walter had answered negatively. The young man must have meant the newly fused ruins in front of them. He had the impression that without the time-stripping spell, the strongest of the undead were not inferior to him. Furthermore, there were many treasures among the undead. For example, the staff in the Red Priest's hand, inlaid with 7 colored gemstones, was a platinum tier tool that could control the undead. The drill in the Underworld Emperor's hand and the trident in the Ghost Captain's hand were both tools of the same level. It appeared to be a recreation of the fabled sea god, Trident. Antonio got even more envious the more he stared at it. He did not need the entire land of the dead, he would be satisfied with the platinum tier tools. Those items were meant to be buried with the owner of the ruins after his death. An ordinary person would have been happy to get those ruins when they entered the ruins, but Watson was different. He had fused those ruins instead. He did not only get the treasures, but he even made the ruins' owner his subordinate. Antonio could not help but admire his handiwork. Chapter 216, Using a platinum tier item for self-defense is not too much, right? You have misunderstood, Master. That is not your gift. Watson waved his hand, and the land of the dead immediately disappeared into the shadow of space. Only a black fog remained, shrouding the outside of Black Moon Town. Even though the land of the dead was hidden, he could make it reappear with just a thought. Furthermore, he knew the land of the dead like the back of his hand. Other than the 12 platinum tier kings of death, hundreds of thousands of martyrs, and more than 10 platinum tier items. There were also tens of thousands of gold tier and silver tier tools. Those ancient aristocrats were extremely wealthy. Watson could borrow all of their treasures via the undead treasury ability, and he could also summon them to fight at any time and place. With the protection of the land of the dead, the safety of Black Moon Town was significantly increased. If he encountered an enemy, he could activate the town's defense and summon the land of the dead. How would their enemies persevere in the face of the army of the dead? I am now the master of a small kingdom, and I even control the dead. Watson was laughing to himself when he heard Antonio's disgruntled voice. Watson, you stinky brat, didn't you say you would give me the things after the fusion? I haven't gotten anything yet. Are you going back on your words? The fused Golden Flash and Emperor Cluck were not his, and the fused ruins had nothing to do with him either. Watson must have toyed with him. Why would I do that, master? Am I that kind of person? Watson shrugged and smiled. Don't worry, master. I'll fuse the present I want to give you right now. System fusion, activate. Hundreds of world tree branches pierced out of Watson's hand as he opened his palm. They began as astrology tarot cards, then twisted together to form the shape of a magic staff. Then, Watson touched the ring on his finger and made a wish. I would like to get 20 copies of Shadow of the World Tree. The cost is 10,000 years of my master's life. After he had advanced to Platinum tier, the astrology tarot cards he created had been upgraded to peak Gold tier. After a casual fusion, they would become a peak Platinum tier item. Furthermore, according to the principle of the World Tree's branches to change at will, he could fuse them into weapons of any shape. In addition to utilizing the wish for the World Ring to provide materials and the Pen of Truth to modify the results, Watson felt that he could try to make Diamond tier weapons. Whoosh! The glow on the ring in his palm dimmed as soon as he finished speaking. Suddenly, 20 seeds materialized in front of him. Those 20 seeds were all generated from his Platinum tier item, the Shadow of the World Tree. They were virtually identical to the original one. System fusion, activate. The 20 jade-green amber-like seeds transformed into a stream of light and fused with the staff-shaped branches, forming a palm-sized tiny tree with lush roots. A treasure light in the shape of a ball enveloped the little tree. It felt as if a majestic life force had entered his body just by grasping it. When he heard the system's voice, Watson cried out, "Pen of Truth, come here." The Pen of Truth immediately flew out of his body and landed in front of him. Respected Master, how may I help you? I want to change reality. The staff I am currently crafting will endure the water of the spring of life and starfall. I also want it to have lightning destruction and the forging of the phoenix fire. I declare that within a year, it will become the most famous magical staff in the kingdom. Watson's words were firm, and his eyes were full of confidence. He believed that the staff he created would be the strongest in the kingdom. Even if it were designed for him, then he would still make it the most powerful one. My respected master, there is a loophole in your statement. That magical staff will be one of the most famous staff in the kingdom within a year, and not absolutely the strongest. Your thoughtful servant has already helped you fill in the gaps, so you don't need to be punished. Did I do the right thing, master? That pen can write on its own? How amazing! Antonio and the others were aware of the nature of the Pen of Truth, so they remained silent. Instead, the Black Moon Knights and maidservants, who had been following Watson's fusion with bated breath, appeared surprised when they saw the Pen of Truth. They detected a cheap odor emanating from that platinum tier object, and the source of that familiar odor was. Many people stood respectfully in front of Watson while looking at Captain Allen, causing Allen to shout in dissatisfaction. Why are you all looking at me? What do you mean? Watson ignored the noise around him as he waved at the sky. The Golden Flash, who had already turned into a diamond star dragon, immediately opened his mouth and roared. Boom! A muffled, thunderous clap sounded. The sky trembled, as did the spectacular nebula around the Golden Flash. Thousands of lightning bolts appeared, resembling a swarm of silvery white snakes. They formed a tight line and engulfed the branch in Watson's grasp. The branch's surface turned charred black. A trickle of pure spring water emerged on the branch and caused it to flourish. Emperor Cluck then spat forth a white flame on the branch. The flame did not burn out when it landed on the branch. Instead, it generated a translucent ice layer. The entire staff resembled a little tree encased in a diamond shell. It looked holy and powerful. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing a Diamond Tier item, the Crystal World Tree Staff. Diamond Tier Staff, Crystal World Tree Staff. Effects: retains all effects of Shadow of the World Tree. The Descent of the World Tree, the Song of Wisdom, absorbs energy to grow the Sun and Moon Gems. The Stripper of Lives, can automatically absorb all life force as far as the eye can see to restore itself. The Dust of the Splendid World, can release pollen with various effects such as dizziness, paralysis, blindness, fear. It is effective on those with strength below the Diamond Tier. The Crystal Barrier, uses crystals to construct a powerful defense, producing an effect similar to absolute defense. Master, you gave me the Sun and Moon Staff, and I am very grateful for that. Now, I want to give you a staff too. This is my gift to you. Watson grinned and handed it to his master after reading the information about the Crystal World Tree Staff. Antonio's features went from handsome to aged once his lifespan was spent. His hands trembled when he took the item from Watson. He noticed a name etched in the center of the crystal staff as he looked closely. He was taken aback. The name was Vivian. That was the name he had carved on the Sun and Moon staff. It was also the name of the person he could never forget. He did not expect Watson to be so thoughtful to notice that. He felt touched by that gesture. Master, are you satisfied with this gift? Watson asked shyly. Excellent. I am very satisfied. Antonio rubbed his nose. Watson had given him a gift, and it was a Diamond Tier item that was far beyond his expectations. He felt a burst of life energy rush into his body as he held the magical staff. He squinted his eyes relaxedly. The wrinkles on his face were progressively fading. That was the result of the Crystal World Tree Staff's Stripper of Lives ability. Young Master Watson can fuse a Diamond Tier weapon. We can now update our training weapons and armor. As one would expect from young Master Watson. Now and then, he will throw us a new surprise. All the Black Moon Knights and maidservants applauded. They swallowed their saliva subconsciously as they gazed at the staff in Antonio's hand. Even the border count, Sylvan, experienced the same thing. He had never seen a Diamond Tier weapon before, despite the fact that one was right in front of him. He was envious. He had already made up his mind, he would get Watson to create a Diamond Tier staff for him no matter the cost. Well, since you are satisfied, Master, I guess it's my turn next. What do you mean, Watson? Antonio's heart raced as he heard Watson's comments, and he displayed a worried expression. Well, you said that as long as I return the favor, Master, that you'd use your lifespan to help me make those wish for the world rings. Have you forgotten about that? Watson's tone was gentle, but his words made Antonio shiver. Well, everyone is exhausted after our return. Let's eat something and take a bath first. Then. I'm sorry, Master. I can't wait any longer. The king discreetly controls the border, and I don't know when my family and friends will be injured. I want to ensure their safety, but I don't need all of them to have Platinum Tier strength. However, I want them to have a Platinum Tier or even a Diamond Tier item for self-defense. Is that too much to ask? Unfortunately, Watson interrupted Antonio before he could continue his remark. System Fusion, Activate. Chapter 217, The Number 1 Town in the World. Watson made a wish as he twisted the wish for the world ring on his finger and fused the world tree branches that grew on his palm. He fused and tossed the Diamond Tier Crystal World Tree Staff. When the staff dropped onto the ground, it instantly took root, sprouting diamond-shaped branches and leaves that rustled in the wind. More than 10 diamond trees had sprouted from the ground in a short amount of time. That was not the end of the story. At the same time, Watson fused a wish for the world ring. In a short period, he had created more than 100 wish for the world rings. Antonio twitched as if he had been electrocuted. His expression shifted between old and youthful, and he rolled his eyes. Is that for real? Young Master Watson is making a platinum tier item. That is a platinum tier item, right? A person in Black Moon Town had just received the ring. He examined the ring in his palm and the energy it contained. He could not believe it. He was only a refugee who could not survive the winter. He had chosen to flee. He did not have any clothes a month ago, and he still did not even have enough food to eat every day. He had no idea he would get a rare platinum tier item in the kingdom. What kind of skill was that? Many other people felt the same way he did. The platinum tier wish for the world rings flew from Watson's side into each intended refugee's hand. They were ecstatic, and then they knelt in gratitude. They thanked Watson repeatedly until they were numb. They knew that it was a simple thing for Watson to fuse the wish for the world rings. Then he had used the ring to get the shadow of the world tree. He immediately threw the peak platinum tier objects to the ground, and a massive tree grew toward the sky. The sun and moon gems, the two types of fruit, were abundant on the tree. There was a faint shadow of a great sin beast streaking across it. The shadow of the world tree, which Watson had used as his trump card, was only an ordinary tree to him. It was no wonder that he had thrown all the diamond tier items. The Pen of Truth had said that the diamond tier magic staff Watson had created would be one of the strongest staff in the future. It seemed that they had expected that scene. The diamond tier staff next to Watson fell from the sky like a rain of platinum tier rings or other items. It was a crazy sight, and one might call that a miracle. The only one who felt uncomfortable was probably Antonio. Not only did he roll his eyes, but he was even foaming at the mouth. In the forest nearby Monty Town, a team carefully exited the town's east gate. It consisted of 2 carriages. Guards in silver tier armor and swords stood outside those carriages. The guards were City Hall's finest, and the persons they were guarding were quite self-evident. It was Geraint. Geraint sat in the carriage at the back as he stared at the black rat opposite him with a puzzled face. "Sir Rat, I have already brought you the money you requested. I am willing to go to Black Moon Castle to get supplies and have someone deliver the letter. Can you let me go? I'll let you go when we reach Black Moon Castle. But before that, you'd better stay here obediently." When the rat looked at Geraint, a frightening atmosphere erupted in the carriage. It caused Geraint to tremble unconsciously. The rat said, "And do not address me as Sir Rat. It bothers me. I have a name, Moriarty." "Yes, Sir Rat, I mean, Sir Moriarty." Geraint wiped his hands uncomfortably and responded with an awkward smile. He had intended to trap that rat when he arrived at Black Moon Castle, at which point he would no longer have to worry about it. However, the rat was quite cautious and even allowed him to travel with him. What if the rat went to Black Moon Castle and wreaked havoc? Geraint was concerned about what would happen if the Black Moon Castle blamed him for the incident. Moriarty stretched a claw outward and waved it as if he did not feel the ripples in his heart. "Tell me everything there is to know about Black Moon Castle, such as how much property they have, about the castle guards, and so on." He gathered his thoughts and assumed a courteous demeanor. He continued to tell his story. "I know very little about Black Moon Town. I have only met Zeke, Zenoa, and young Master Peter. They say that Watson has exceptional talent. Antonio, the kingdom's greatest mage, valued him generously and welcomed him as a disciple. Aside from that, Black Moon Castle has the Black Moon Knights, all of them are gold-tier warriors. They also have formidable mages. Watson controls the Mage Guild and the mercenary group in Monty Town." Geraint cast a glance at Moriarty and discovered that he had no intention of interrupting him. "So," he continued to say, "those are Black Moon Castle's defending forces. When it comes to resources, they have a plethora of silver and gold tier items. There are numerous magical beasts of the same rank too. I heard that Black Moon Castle had mastered a material fusing spell. They even use it to combine a real dragon and a phoenix." "I understand." Moriarty nodded his rat head. Geraint's statement confirmed what he already knew. Watson had used a fusion spell to remove the demon's blood and purgatory skeleton from his body and fused them into a complete Hell Baron. That magic also destroyed his original body. It appears that Black Moon Castle guards are not as powerful as I imagined. Those guards are gold tier elites. It is not easy for some of the great nobles, but it is nothing to me. Moriarty reasoned inwardly. He wanted to kill Watson for vengeance, but he also wanted the fusion spell from his grasp. That spell would allow him to rise to the apex of the realm. The corners of Moriarty's mouth curved into a proud arc. He straightened his body and looked at the scenery outside the window. He estimated that he would arrive at Black Moon Town in more than a day. The faint cries of the gold-biter rats he controlled could be heard in the woods and mountains outside the window. At the banquet hall in Black Moon Castle, Black Moon Town was not the same as it had been before that. There were hundreds of flourishing tall antique trees throughout the village. They surrounded the houses made of giant rock golems. There were a few larger trees that appeared to be made of diamonds. The diamond-shaped leaves on them collided with the wind to produce a clear and melodic sound. The dragon was enveloped by a nebula and clad in diamond-tier armor. It was more than 200 meters long. It laid on a tree. A significantly smaller frost phoenix stood on another diamond tree opposite it. There were 100 platinum-colored phoenix eggs in the nest that had been fashioned into a castle. The white holy fire was ablaze on them, and they could hear the faint sound of a phoenix. A group of people with extraordinary reputations, dressed in servants' clothing, stood under the tree. They had scissors and wooden basins. They were ready to retrieve the phoenix eggs on the branches. Those people were part of the 100,000 refugees who had joined Black Moon Town. All of them had a wish for the world ring on their finger. Watson had just spent a few hours fusing 100 diamond-tier crystal world tree staffs, thousands of shadow of the world tree, and finally hundreds of thousands of the wish for the world rings. Antonio did not stop until his face was swollen with anguish, and he could not endure it any longer. Everyone in Black Moon Town had the wish for the world ring. Some of them desired to be attractive, while others wanted to be wealthy and powerful. In any event, they would get 3 wishes every day. It was all right as long as they did not make any stupid wishes that would prove too expensive for payment. After a wave of wishes, the people in Black Moon Town were all different. One could only see handsome men and beautiful women there. They were all in black uniforms with a moon emblazoned on them. Some of them had previously worked as maids at Black Moon Castle. They looked serene and graceful, and their movements were those of a well-educated aristocrat. That had something to do with their desire to enhance their professionalism. Black Moon Town was a place of hope and laughter as well as attractive men and women. It was one of the best and most beautiful towns in the world. Chapter 218, The One to Rule the Border. Watson sat by the banquet hall's window, peering out at the clouds through the glass. When he noticed the people below, he smiled and handed a contract to Sylvan, who sat across from him. "Lord Sylvan, this is the contract for Black Moon Town to rule the border and merge the other 4 towns with the fairy castle. From today onward, everyone at the border, including every blade of grass and every tree, will be under my command. If you have no objections, then sign the contract." The pen of truth had helped him to write the contract. After writing it, the pen flew to Antonio's side and pierced his arm to suck some blood. Antonio sat on the chair, still maintaining his handsome face. He opened and closed his mouth before he said, "Watson, you're killing me." His body trembled occasionally, and his eyes looked at the ceiling listlessly. Watson did not show mercy to him because he was his master. Instead, he squeezed him to the end, which made Antonio unable to make wishes for a long time in the future. Otherwise, he would have a mental breakdown. Other than the gods, no one could bear the pain of jumping between life and death. Fortunately, Watson had fused more than 100,000 wish for the world rings. Everyone in Black Moon Town was equipped with 1 ring each, and some even had 10 rings. He had also replaced the 2 rings that he had used to help Antonio recover his youthful looks. He stretched his right hand and knocked on the table gently as he dragged his face with his other hand. Watson made a cute expression, and the rings on his 10 fingers shone with a sense of oppression. Watson could see his current self through the mirror in the banquet hall's corner. His brown hair was shiny and sleek, and his azure eyes were flecked with stars. He was clad in a stunning black robe and held some platinum-tier items in his hands. In comparison to when he first transmigrated to that world, he was not only more powerful and had obtained many things, but he had also developed mentally and physically. It had only taken him a little more than a year to do that. A moment later, as he lamented about that, he heard a sound before a familiar voice said, "Watson, you did not even inform me you were coming back. You really made me sad. And the border count is sitting opposite you." Watson, the hero, confronted the evil Lord Sylvan, who controlled the border. They fought on the summit of a limitless snow mountain. In the end, Watson destroyed the snow mountain. That story looks pretty good. When Watson turned around, he discovered that his sixth sister, Margaret, had arrived at his side without his knowledge. She was writing on a stack of pale golden goatskin parchment with a fine quill pen. It was more like sketching than writing. The quill pen tip brushed across the goatskin parchment, producing white scratches. Margaret had not changed much since more than a month ago. She still had a lot of baby fat. Her exposed arms and thighs looked meaty, and there were subtle dark circles around her eyes. She yawned as she was writing. The evil count? A fight on the summit of the snowy mountain. The border count had just received the contract when he heard Margaret's voice. He raised his head in puzzlement. "Margaret, come here quickly. How can you be so disrespectful to the border count?" Vincent accompanied Edward, Catherine, and Scarlett as they walked into the banquet hall. A few maids skillfully closed the door behind them. Vincent was the one who spoke, and his eyes were filled with hopelessness as he stared at Margaret. His sister, whom he had wanted to summon but had been unable to do so, had appeared there on her own. When he saw Watson and the others were home, he had wanted to invite everyone to a banquet. He had not expected Watson to command Black Moon Town's defense system to exterminate a large bunch of gold-biter rats. Furthermore, the entire Black Moon Town had transformed considerably after a cycle of fusion. Watson had already led Sylvan and Antonio into the banquet hall when he recovered from his shock. He could only invite his parents. On the way, he saw that he was clutching the ring he had just received. Scarlett, who was standing in the corridor to make a wish, yelled out as well. He did not invite Margaret, but she had walked right in front of everyone. Margaret stood behind Watson as she composed a story, and the story's substance was slightly relevant to Sylvan at the time. He could not help but be concerned about Margaret. Watson was obviously talking to Sylvan about something. It would be awkward if Sylvan became enraged as a result of Margaret's word. Edward had the same thoughts. As he straightened the white flower on his garment, he approached rapidly behind Sylvan, removed his white glove, and offered out his right hand. "Lord Sylvan, my name is Edward Gary, and I am an unrated noble. Welcome, my lord. I wonder if you have any plans and if you intend to stay for a long time, my lord. If possible, please extend your stay so we can continue to host you." He had only recently met the kingdom's best mage. Then, he encountered the kingdom's most powerful mage. Even the king would find it impossible to meet both men at the same time. Edward sighed inwardly. "Hello, Baron Edward. It looks like there's no need for me to introduce myself. The main reason I am here at this time is to discuss cooperation with Watson." "That contract?" Sylvan shook the contract in his hand. Edward interrupted him before he could continue. "Lord Sylvan, may I take a look at that contract?" "Of course." Sylvan handed the contract to Edward with a weird expression. Watson had been in control of the family's affairs for quite some time. However, he was still a child. He had already suffered losses at the hands of the border count before that. Leaving Margaret's case aside, he needed to investigate such a significant business transaction with the border count. What if the border count made an outlandish proposition that Watson wished to reject but did not dare to do so? With that in mind, Edward looked at the contract in his hand. At a glance, he was stunned. He saw a few clauses written in the contract. First, Black Moon Town was the nominal ruler of the border. It had the right to mobilize border personnel and use all its resources. Second, Black Moon Town would be the largest town on the border with Sylvan's authorization. The other 4 towns would have to submit to Black Moon Town. Third, the right to explain the above content would ultimately belong to Black Moon Town. Edward rubbed the space between his brows. Before he could finish reading, his blood pressure had already increased. He had initially believed that the contract's content was not very advantageous to Black Moon Town. He had not anticipated the content was the exact reverse of what he had expected. The agreement also said that Black Moon Castle would rule over Fairy Castle and Sylvan would be Watson's aide, which surprised him even more. Sylvan spoke just as he was ready to ask about it. "Watson, I accept the terms of the contract you drafted. But I have a modest request. Could you please give me one of the diamond tier magical staff you have just fused?" "Of course." Watson smiled. "Other than the one given to my master, I plan to leave the rest of the diamond tier magical staff in Black Moon Town to make potted plants or give them to the Golden Flash and Emperor Cluck to make their nests. Since you want one, you may have it before you leave." "Potted plants? Watson, you're using the gift you gave me to make potted plants? To think that I did not hesitate to use my lifespan to help you fuse so many platinum tier items." When Antonio, slumped in his chair, heard that, he leaped up and spoke angrily. He slammed the newly acquired staff on the table. Then he reacted and carefully examined it to ensure that it was not broken. The corner of Sylvan's mouth twitched before he exhaled a breath of relief. "Watson, can you make a more powerful item?" If Watson could create a stronger magical staff, he would not want that one. "Master, Lord Silva, you have misunderstood me. I can't create a stronger magic staff." The Pen of Truth said that the magical staff would be one of the strongest magical staff in the kingdom in the next year. "That proves that I can't create a stronger tool in at least a year." Watson shrugged. He was not lying. However, he did not have the same thoughts as Sylvan. He could make platinum or diamond tier tools with the fusion technique and the wish for the world ring. However, at that moment, they had sufficient items in Black Moon Town. If he were to make a wish, he could multiply the number of those tools in a matter of days. The rarer the item, the more valuable it was. When there were too many of a certain thing, no one would think that they were valuable, even if they were very precious. After he determined that Watson was not lying, Sylvan paused for a while before he summoned the Pen of Truth to him. He signed his name after he added the clause for Watson to give him a diamond tier item. Then, at the top of the contract, the Pen of Truth spat forth a ball of red viscous liquid, which was utilized as the ink paste to bind the contract. Sylvan stood up and reached out to Watson, who sat opposite him. "Watson, I will fulfill the terms of your contract, and you must fulfill mine. I believe you will not go back on your words. As a sign of our amicable collaboration, I shall first bring your appointment as the border ruler to the attention of the other 4 towns, so they will know what to do." After he said that, Sylvan took 4 magic scrolls engraved with some mysterious words from his robe. He rubbed them gently with his hands, and the magic scrolls immediately burned into ashes. At the same time, Geraint and Moriarty were in the carriage. They were a day away from Black Moon Town. "Arg! It's hot." Geraint patted the flames on his tie and then took a scroll from his pocket. It was called a communication scroll. Sylvan had given that to him after he became the town mayor. It enabled them to contact each other when there was an emergency. He was not the only one who had that scroll. The other 3 towns also had it. "That looks like it is a gold tier communication scroll. The transmission range is as far as the entire border. The border count must have given that to you." tell me what he wrote." Moriarty straightened his body calmly. Gerard did not answer him. He only stared coldly at the scroll that had been burnt to ashes. "I'm talking to you. Did you not hear me?" Moriarty was a little displeased. The temperature of the entire carriage dropped by a few degrees. Just as he was about to lose his temper, he saw the glowing words that appeared in the ashes. He was also stunned. There was only one sentence. "All mayors at the border, including Monty Town, must head to Black Moon Castle immediately upon receiving this message. From today onward, Black Moon Castle will become the ruler of the border. All the towns will be under their command. Fairy Castle will also cooperate with them. Anyone who violates this rule will be expelled from the border. The address of Black Moon Castle is as follows." Chapter 219, Tremors at the Border. Torch Town, south of the border. Torch Town was one of the only 4 towns on the border. Its richness was equivalent to that of Monty Town. Tall torches with orange flames were strung throughout the town. The flames in those torches were made from the body fat of a magical beast known as the fire-swallowing beast, who lived south of the border. The fire-swallowing beast was a magical beast that ranged from bronze to silver tier. Its entire body was flaming red, and it had the shape of a giant toad. The oil in its body was drained and used to fuel the torches, allowing the flames to burn for an extended period. The town used the torches to keep everyone warm throughout the winter, and at night, the flames illuminated the surroundings. Every year, when the winter ended, the town would host an event known as the Torch Festival. The celebration was hosted for warriors who had killed the most magical beasts. They carried torches and ran around town to enjoy the admiration of the other citizens in town. That was how the town got its name, Torch Town. Torch Town was different that year. The 10-meter-high town wall was in disrepair and riddled with holes. It was also covered in dried blood streaks. Soldiers with numb faces clutched spears and patrolled the city walls sleepily. The town had become even more miserable. There was a lot of black smoke in a lot of the houses. They appeared to have burnt not long ago. Torches representing the spirit of the town were scattered all over the ground. They were already extinguished, the charred torches were soaked in the melted snow. A couple of pairs of leather boots trod on them. The owners of those leather boots were a few soldiers in red armor. They hurried to the city hall as they shook the snow off their bodies and walked into the hall. The mayor of Torch Town, Lubin Campbell, sat in the hall accompanied by dozens of officials who stood around a large table with serious expressions on their faces. Lubin got up excitedly when he saw the guards approaching them. "You're back. How's the investigation?" "My lord, we've already investigated it. The collapse of the Dragonspine Snow Mountain seems to be related to the border count. Those black rats that had appeared seem to be connected to the mountain's collapse." The leading soldier knelt on one knee respectfully as he said that. Just half a day ago, a swarm of black rats appeared in the vicinity of Torch Town. Those rodents gnawed on everything in sight, including the walls. Furthermore, the rats' bodies split into 2 when they consumed food, and they could not kill them no matter how hard they tried. Even soldiers who were brave and good at fighting were terrified. When they killed a rat, more rats would pounce on them. In a few minutes, the armor and long swords on their bodies would be completely devoured, and they would lose their weapons and armor. The protective combat aura on the bronze tier warriors was nothing to those rats. It was difficult for the silver tier elites to escape. There were a lot of silver tier rats in the group. They were each the size of a human and possessed 6 wings. Their flying speed was substantially faster than that of comparable level warriors. They would not be able to withstand it if 2 rats surrounded and assaulted a silver tier fighter. The most terrifying aspect was that the rats ate the corpses of the fallen warriors and continued to breed. The death rate was not even close to the rats' reproduction rate. In the end, it was Lubin who asked the Mage Guild in Torch Town to take action. They used large-scale magical arrays to destroy more than half of the rats and forced them to escape. However, no one knew when those rats would come back. Therefore, Lubin sent people to get more information about the rats. The people he sent were the few silver-tier guards in front of him. Those rats appeared after the Dragonspine snow mountain collapsed. They must have been living on the snowy mountain a long time ago. Lord Sylvan was aware of this, therefore, why would he destroy the Dragonspine snow mountain? Could he have let those devil-like rats out on purpose? Lubin's expression was unsightly. The cruelty of those rats had far exceeded all the magical beasts he knew, so he named them the Devil Rats. Torch Town had existed on the border for decades, but that was the first time it had suffered such severe damages. Not only had the town been defeated, but a third of the residents had also died. As the mayor of the town, that responsibility fell on him. Mayor, Torch Town has suffered such a degree of damage because you neglected your duty. If you hadn't decided not to ask the border count for help in the winter, we wouldn't have been so miserable. Are you trying to shift the blame to the border count by saying that now? You are right. Perhaps since Torch Town did not spend money choosing reinforcements from Fairy Castle, the border count was displeased and destroyed the Dragonspine snow mountain to free those devil rats. Maybe the border count was disappointed in us. I heard that Monty Town, who has been competing with us, is doing well. It appears that they had acquired a significant amount of high-quality materials from a location known as Black Moon Castle and prospered. That may be proof that the border count values Monty Town. If this goes on, Monty Town will become stronger, and our town will become weaker. In such a situation, we won't be able to maintain the same strength as Monty Town. Behind him, a few elderly officials spoke in a flurry of words, which made Lubin's face turn even uglier. As expected, those folks had placed the blame on him. They could not do anything else, but they were masters of eluding each other. Everyone had agreed on the decision not to seek assistance from the border count. For whatever reason, the number of magical beasts roaming around in the winter was unusually low. Even if some great magical beasts were to invade the town's gold-tier mage guild elites could defend them. There was no need to seek assistance from the border count. However, who could have predicted that such a horde of rats would pursue them? Just as he moved his lips and was about to explain, a scroll floated out of his chest. It burned intensely, and a line of glowing words appeared on the burning scroll. All mayors at the border, including Monty Town, must head to Black Moon Castle immediately upon receiving this message. From today onward, Black Moon Castle will become the ruler of the border. All the towns will be under their command. Fairy Castle will also cooperate with them. Anyone who violates this rule will be expelled from the border. The address of Black Moon Castle is as follows. What's going on? Lubin looked confused. That scroll had been given to him by the border count. It was meant for him to ask for help in times of crisis. He had planned to use it if the devil rats returned, but he did not expect the scroll to burn on its own and gave him an order. The border count had chosen to make Black Moon Castle the largest town on the border. Isn't Black Moon Castle just a force that sells things to Monty Town? He even asked the other 4 towns to cooperate with him. He must be dissatisfied with Torch Town. It's all your fault for making that wrong decision, Lord Mayor. I wonder if our town can still retain its original form after it becomes Black Moon Town's subordinate. Will we continue to be the City Hall's officials? The officials discussed that eagerly. Instead of guessing the purpose in the border count's mind, they were more worried about whether they could keep their jobs. Someone looked at Lubin and said, Lord Mayor, what should we do now? What else can we do? The border count has already said so. If we don't comply, we will definitely be expelled from the border. We might as well go to Black Moon Castle. I remember that Black Moon Castle is a new force on the border. I don't know why the border count thinks so highly of them. Maybe they bewitched the border count. Well, I'll bring more specialties from our time. By then, we can't be certain of who will control the border. Lubin clenched his fists and began to arrange for his subordinates to prepare carriages and supplies. Even though Torch Town had encountered a disaster, it was not a problem to prepare gifts worth more than 100,000 gold coins. In his opinion, the border count only sent that message with one purpose, which was to consolidate all the forces at the border. Black Moon Castle was most likely his puppet, which could also be Torch Town. He could probably tempt the border count if he gave him enough benefits. He knew that they could not underestimate Black Moon Castle. They had managed to get the border count to issue such an order. He had only heard of that new force and did not know more about them. However, the name had been deeply engraved into his mind. The other 3 towns on the border had also received the message. The words Black Moon Castle swept across the entire border like a storm. Everyone was shaken. Chapter 220, Watson is not an illegitimate child. Fairy Town. That was the town where the fairy castle was located. It was also one of the 4 major towns on the border. The relatives of the people who worked in Fairy Castle, such as maids and guards, were all qualified to live in that town and protected by the border count. At that moment, the mayor of Fairy Town, André, had gathered all the high-tier officials to look at a burnt scroll on the table. André used to be Fairy Castle's commander of the guards. He was nearly 90 years old, so he retired and became Fairy Town's mayor to help manage its affairs. The scroll he kept on him had suddenly burned into ashes, so he gathered the officials to discuss it. The border count sent an order to say that Black Moon Castle would manage our town in the future. He also wants me to go there, and I plan to leave soon. Andrew, who had a white beard and hair, sat upright in the chair as he looked around at everyone. Lord Andrew, didn't the border count go to Black Moon Castle in person? He can make his own decisions. Do we still need to go there? A subordinate asked weakly. Do you think he didn't think of that? He even sent us a message while he's there. He definitely wants us there. Andrew waved his hand and stood up. Go and prepare. We will leave now. Remember to bring more gifts. We are the border count's people. The things in Fairy Town also belong to him. Isn't it unnecessary to bring him his own things? Idiot! Don't you have to prepare gifts when you go to someone's home? This is basic noble etiquette. Furthermore, the border count has always maintained a competitive relationship with the other 4 towns on the border. But he did not particularly favor any one of them. He must have deliberately supported Black Moon Castle for a reason. Perhaps he is dissatisfied with us. Do you think it's okay not to bring anything? Use your brain. After he reprimanded his subordinates, André turned around and looked into the distance. He had been working for the border count for at least a few decades, and that was the first time he had seen the border count make such a decision. In his heart, the border count had always been a fair and impartial person, and he would never act in a biased manner. Furthermore, if the border count wanted to support a small town, it would be better to choose Fairy Town. Why did he choose Black Moon Castle, which was not even well known? What was so special about Black Moon Castle? Vermilion Town. It was the last town on the border, and it was also a relatively small town. Your Highness, we have just received news that the border count has burned a communication scroll to send a message. He wants us to make a trip to Black Moon Castle. Should we go? In the city hall, a few guards knelt respectfully on the ground. They looked at a woman in gorgeous red and yellow clothes in the shadows with respectful eyes. The woman's name was Adele. She was the mayor of Vermilion Town. Vermilion Town was famous for its bronze-tier mineral heat ore. It was a high-energy ore that was equivalent to 1,000 catties of coal per catty. Every winter, the ore that absorbed the moonlight would emit a faint red light that gathered in the sky. It was like a blood-red river that hung in the sky, which was the town's wonder. Unlike other towns, Vermilion Town was a town with a high concentration of power. It did not have a city hall, and there was only one mayor, Adele. During her tenure, Vermilion Town had developed rapidly, and she was in a high position. Adele often worked with the town residents. At night, she slept in the shabby cow sheet and ate the simplest couscous bread. Everyone addressed her as the Sun Princess instead of the mayor because of her approachable personality. The moon symbolized cold and darkness, while the sun was the opposite. It represented warmth and sunshine. In the eyes of the people, Adele was such a person. I understand. Let me think about it. You guys can go. The woman's beautiful and gentle voice echoed. But the border count is in a hurry. The guards wanted to say something, but when they saw the woman waved her hand, they could only shut their mouths and leave. The woman, who was hidden in the shadows, gently supported her cheeks with her right hand. There was a slight sound when her fingers tapped on her cheeks. The border count wants to unite the 4 towns. Did he discover that the king sent me to spy on him? I have always been very low-key about my work. The Vermilion town is not particularly outstanding among the 4 towns. There's no reason for him to discover it. Something's wrong. There have been a lot of changes at the border recently. Not only did the Dragonspine Snow Mountain collapse, but a group of rats and magical beasts appeared near Vermilion town as well. Things are gradually getting out of my control. I need to consult His Majesty first. I won't answer the border count's invitation lest he finds out something's wrong. After she made up her mind, the woman knocked on the legs of the chair. There was a sound before the chair moved to reveal a pitch-black passage below. The woman put her palms together in a praying posture and walked into the path. Black Moon Castle's banquet hall. Sylvan sat back in his chair in satisfaction after he used magic to send a message to the people in the other 4 towns. Suddenly, he thought of something and patted his forehead. Something's wrong. I seem to have sent a message to Fairy Town just now. There was no need for him to send a message to Fairy Town while he was there. It was a slip of hand, he had sent the message to everyone. The Fairy Town mayor was once the commander of the guards at my residence, André. He was not only a peak gold tier warrior, but he was also a man who was proficient in human nature. I believe he'd understand that the message was a mistake. With that thought in mind, Sylvan was utterly relieved. Watson, I have already sent a message to the other 4 towns. I believe that they will arrive in a few days. I will have to bother you and stay here for the time being. Oh, right. I have mentioned the reward for the Diamond Tier Magic Staff. Watson said, Lord Sylvan, you must be joking. Of course, you should stay here. How would that bother me? Yes, you and Sylvan are a family. What do you mean by disturbing? Antonio seemed to have rested well. He shook his dizzy head and interrupted them. Lord Astrologer, you are too courteous. We are only an unimportant family. How can we be related to the border count? Perhaps if he has a daughter Watson's age, then there might be a chance for us to be a family. Edward did not understand Antonio's words. He smiled and continued to say, of course, if the border count doesn't have a daughter of the right age, then Miss Nightingale will do too. Nightingale had helped Black Moon Castle, and she had a good relationship with Watson. Edward had wanted to make Nightingale his daughter-in-law, so he said that to Sylvan. If Sylvan could agree to that marriage, then Black Moon Castle and the border count would continue to have a relationship. What was the identity of the border count? He was the master of the entire border. If they could build a relationship with the border count, then Black Moon Castle would be able to do whatever they wanted at the border. Edward had not even fawned over Antonio so much. The man was the greatest mage in the kingdom and Sylvan's master. However, there was a saying in that world: a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. No matter how strong Antonio was, he would have to return to the kingdom, unlike Sylvan, who could always protect them. When Watson signed the contract with Sylvan, Edward sweated profusely. Since Sylvan did not intend to exploit Black Moon Castle and did not care about Watson's rudeness, Edward felt it easy to rope him into their favor. To his surprise, as soon as he finished speaking, Antonio frowned and said, Edward, I already know about the relationship between you, Sylvan, and Watson. I'm Watson's master, so I'm not an outsider. There's no need to hide it between us, right? What relationship? Edward was confused. Watson was also bewildered. Watson is Sylvan's illegitimate son, so he was adopted. The maids said you and Sylvan raised the same son, so aren't you considered a family? And you still have to pretend to say things like marriage. Seriously, do you really need me to say it before you understand? Antonio leaned against the chair and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. It seemed that talking made him feel uncomfortable again. His words were like a clap of thunder that caused waves in the entire hall. Watson is Sylvan's illegitimate child. Edward and Catherine parted in shock. Their eyes were filled with questions and vigilance. Did their partner cheated on them? Sylvan was also perplexed. He knew that he was not Watson's father and that Antonio had imposed that relationship on him. Sylvan felt strange when he saw how Edward and Catherine had reacted when Antonio said that sentence in public. Watson was visibly confused. He stood up with a bewildered expression on his face. How could he not know that he was the border count's illegitimate son?